well, for me, it was pretty terrifying. There is a lot of pressure on performing well, hitting all the marks, and being better. You don't want to disappoint them because they are the people that you look up to, and they can be pretty brutal when they give you the feedback afterwards. So it's really like, oh, gotta get it right.
Gozaimasu, konnichiwa, konbanwa, for whenever you're listening to the Joshi Pod, your weekly podcast about the world of Japanese women's wrestling, Joshi Wrestling. I'm your host, Eric Howard, coming to you from beautiful San Diego, California. I want to thank you all, first off, so much for the feedback from the interview with Thunder Rosa last week. The audio quality wasn't the greatest, but she was the greatest. I really enjoyed the chat with Thunder Rosa. If you haven't heard that one yet, please go back, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. Go back and listen to the archive. We've got some pretty interesting interviews in the past with like Jazzy Gabbard, Tekla, who's over in Japan right now working for Ice Ribbon, Zoe Sky, who's over working for Stardom right now in Japan, Josh Barnett, Priscilla Kelly. We've got quite a few different people who've, I think it's worth going back and having a listen to some of the previous episodes. This week's episode, we're going to just have an abbreviated episode because the state of wrestling in Japan right now is in a little bit of a flux because of the coronavirus. Tokyo Joshi Pro has canceled live events right now. They are going to put on a free show, or not a free show. They're putting up a show on the DDTpro.com website March 1st. It's going to be an empty arena show as well. But the DDT had a show Thursday night, for Friday morning, wherever you want to call it in U.S. time, wherever in the world you guys are. So it's a little bit of state of flux. So we're going to keep this show a little brief and focus more on the interview, which is with Kris Wolf. It's part one of our two-part conversation. We get into what got her to Japan, her training a little bit, and she goes into some detail about the Act Yasukawa incident and what it was like to be a relatively young foreigner in that situation. Kris is a pretty amazing person. Never heard a person say a bad word about Kris, and you're going to fall in love with her even more than you already love her after hearing this part one of the conversation we have. So stick around, listen to that. But before we get to that, I got to tell you about our sponsor, Quiet Wyatt Designs. If you need a t-shirt, a poster, a Snapchat filter, anything at all, reach out to Nolan and the team at Quiet Wyatt Designs. They can be found on Twitter at QWD_official. They've got a Thunder Rosa t-shirt they put out. You can get it at thunderrosa.bigcartel.com. Support the show sponsors, support Nolan and the team at Quiet Wyatt Designs. They are super helpful with getting this podcast out, and big support. We can use all the support we can get at this little old podcast we run here. But support the guys at Quiet Wyatt Designs. I do want to quickly chat with you guys about where Joshi performers will be performing outside of Japan. Tokyo Joshi Pro, they still have seats available for their show Friday, April 3rd at WrestleCon. And then Maki Ito and Miyu Amashita will also be on the Joey Ryan Party Show on April 4th. During WrestleMania weekend, Veni, the wrestler known as Asuka in Japan, makes her U.S. debut at Effie's Big Gay Brunch Show on April 4th. Get your month straight, Eric. For tickets, go to makeitgayer.eventbrite.com to see Veni/Asuka. Give her your support. She's a very brave woman in this world, and it's real exciting to see her get her due by coming over to the U.S. And then on March 6th in San Diego, Akane Fujita will be appearing at the Fist Combat Show. You can get more information at facebook.com/fistcombattv. She's going to be in a 10,000 thumbtack match. I'm not sure I want to see Akane Fujita with 10,000 thumbtacks in her or not. But if you're a wrestling booker in the U.S. She will be in the U.S. from March 2nd, which is pretty soon, to April 14th. She's available for bookings by reaching out to kikataro.booking@gmail.com. Let's get her booked. Let's get her on as many shows as possible. She's a good talent from a great company in Ice Ribbon. And before we get to that big interview with part one of that interview with Kris Wolf, I want to thank you guys again for downloading and listening to this episode of the Joshi Pod. Please follow us on Twitter at the Joshi Pod. Once I get to 500 followers, I'm going to give out a t-shirt, a Joshi Pod t-shirt. Speaking of t-shirts, remember to go to ProWrestlingTees.com, support past guests like Kikyo, Nicole Savoy, and others. I'll put a link to the Joshi wrestlers who have Pro Wrestling Tees stores in the show notes. It's a great way to support the women we enjoy watching. Please do that. So let's get to part one of our interview with Kris Wolf. You guys are going to want to listen to this one. Arigato gozaimasu. Hey guys, this interview is really, really important to me and fun to me. One of the best things about doing the podcast is talking to people you admire, people you have such strong admiration for, because they took the leap of faith and did something I don't have the guts to do. I've never had the guts to do. Our guest today is Kris Wolf. She took the leap of faith, moved to Japan, and became a professional wrestler. Kris Wolf, welcome to the Joshi Pod.
Hi. What's up, Eric?
Not too much. Again, thank you so much for doing this. And so how does a girl born in Chicago of Filipino American descent, grows up in New Jersey, how does she end up in Japan?
Get your heart smashed really, really hard. And then I think people just do crazy things when they're going through heartbreak, and that's how I kind of ended up in Japan. Plus I had a friend there who was like, hey, why don't you come here and forget everything?
So was Japan a dream vacation spot for you ever, or was it just something?
I don't know if it has something to do with my era growing up, but I did travel to the Philippines, and I guess, that's international when I was younger, but maybe living in America, I didn't really see outside of the borders. I mostly just wanted to move to California, to be honest. But that's because that's the image that I saw a lot in movies and TV. I think perhaps even if I did watch anime as a kid, for some reason it didn't penetrate into my mind that I could myself move to Japan. So it wasn't a dream. It was just kind of like that makes sense that I went here.
So you went to Japan. What did you start doing first when you were in Japan? You didn't go there to wrestle at first, did you? You went there to do other things first?
Yeah, I mean, I went there to get over a heartbreak, because sorry, I'm learning Norwegian, so my English is continuing to suffer. I went to Japan because I had a really bad breakup, and then I was just there on vacation trying to figure things out. Ended up, I don't know, cycling through the country for a while and camping, being homeless, and then thought, hey, this is a pretty nice place. I haven't got attacked on the street while camping. I think I'll try living here like a normal person. So then I got a job as an English teacher, and from there eventually found my way to pro wrestling.
What's life like as an English teacher over there?
It's pretty steady. I mean, it can be stressful depending on where you work. I had this one friend who had been an English teacher for a long time, and he said that companies are usually run by dicks or no. Dumb asses or assholes. There we go. They were both with butts, so I got them confused. Either they don't know what they're doing, or they're jerks about it. I guess I did need to explain that because y'all are English speakers. But it's good work. It's steady, and I knew one girl who paid off her student loans teaching English, so that's, impressive shit.
So Were you teaching adults? Were you teaching children, or who were you teaching English to?
I was teaching everyone, which is terrifying for the population.
How many different words for butt did you teach them?
You know what? I don't think I did teach them, but probably not to the kids. I think to the adults I taught as much, inappropriate English as I could.
That's pretty popular over there, actually.
Yeah. I heard of a girl that was making like $3,000 a month just teaching quote unquote adult English.
Where did wrestling come into the picture over there?
Probably a year and a half after teaching English, I was just getting really bored, feeling really stagnant. At that time I had all this energy and I was cycling. So at that point I was cycling a total of 6 hours round trip to Tokyo to work and then back to Yokohama where I lived and working like a full 8-hour shift. And I still felt, I don't know, this kind of energy that wasn't being released. And, you know, teaching kids takes a lot of energy, but I don't know. I was looking for some sort of outlet, had existential crisis, which is, again, the theme of my wrestling career as well. And somehow talking to people led me to wrestling. From a coworker who liked wrestling to a teacher who recommended I check out Joshi. And there was this dude at a gay bar who was straight but worked part-time as a waiter and stunted in the evenings and also worked as a pro wrestler. You can cut all of this if you want, because I'm sorry. We're shuffling through my mind and it's a mess.
I love it. No, that's what this is about.
Oh, God, I'm sorry for all you listeners.
So, tell me, okay, I've been to Yokohama. I love Yokohama. It kind of reminds me of San Diego a little bit, but I love Yokohama so much. It's so different. You take the train, you rode a bicycle, but I rode a train from Tokyo to Yokohama. It seems like two separate worlds almost.
It does. Yeah, it's more chill, I'd say. It's like San Diego. You're right.
All right. So these people tell you about Joshi wrestling. I'm sure you probably go to the internet and watch some Joshi wrestling. How did you choose Stardom, or how did Stardom choose you, or how did you go about finding somebody to start with?
I literally went to YouTube and put in Joshi Pro Resu, and Stardom had the most hits, so it came up as the first result. And I clicked on something. I clicked on a couple of their videos, and it was matches with Natsuki Tayo, Yoshiko, some with Act, some with Kairi, some with Io, and then those are the ones that like stuck out in my mind the most when I actually ended up going to see them. So, rewind. Saw the videos, looked up the company, saw Stardom had like a contact me part, clicked on that, Google translated a shitty letter saying I wanted to become a pro wrestler, sent a little video where I could stumble through my shitty Japanese and tell them that I wanted to join. And the owner contacted me and said that, hey, why don't you come check us out? We have a show this Sunday, and then we'll talk. And so
was that Rossi who reached out to you?
Yeah, that was Rossi. and so I saw it, immediately fell in love, was like, how the hell aren't they dead? Because I didn't, I saw some matches when I was a kid, like pro wrestling, but never really followed it because lack of TV time, I guess. Anyways, he asked me if I still wanted to do it, and I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. So he was like, you can join in our trainings, and if we think you're ready, we'll give you a test, and if you pass it, you can become a wrestler.
So how was the first day of training? What was that like for you?
Oh man, it kicked my ass, but it was so fun. It was like me, a bunch of green girls, and Fuka Kakimoto. She was the trainer, and I guess the girls that fans might know that were there are like Azumi, Hazuki, Asuka. She's no longer wrestling, but she was part of my class, and then Koguma, and then there were some other girls like Maya, and I think I briefly trained with, what is her name? Yuna. Yuna, yeah, Manase. But then she debuted a little bit sooner, and she was training with the senpais later on. But anyways, yeah.
How old was Azumi then? She must have been a baby.
I don't even know, but to watch someone grow is weird. Must be strange to be a parent, to watch this baby suddenly become an adult. Freaks me out.
So we hear horror stories about training, about 10 million Hindu squats and all this and that. What was it? What was training like for a beginner?
We would run this course through the city that it was in. I can't remember. Was it Kamedo? No, it was past Kamedo. Sorry. I can't remember where this Thai kickboxing dojo was because I have really bad memory. So we'd run through the city, and there was a short course and there was a long course, and Fuka would make us run the long course, and I think it would be about a 20-minute run. And then when we get there, we'd stretch, and then we would do this sequence where we would run around the kickboxing ring. And whenever someone shouted a different action, we would do it. So it would be like burpees. Like we'd stop jogging, drop down and jump up and do 5 burpees or whatever. And then it's like, I think it was 10 actually, 10 burpees. Then we'd run again, 10 sit-ups when they shouted it, and then squats. It's just whatever exercises to break up I guess to build our reaction time or quicken our reaction time, as well as train our muscles for explosive movements. Oh wait, sorry, that's not done yet. So after that, then it would be like, I don't know, we'd all take turns doing different kicks and strikes to the punching bags that were there. And we'd also practice, what's it called? Tackling, knees, and I don't know. We did like a lot of exercise.
A little bit of amateur kind of takedowns and stuff too, a little bit.
Yeah. We'd practice some takedowns. Like it felt like there was all these different parts of different martial arts that we would do. And I remember while I was training, I had asked, "So is wrestling real?" And they just looked at me like, "We'll tell you when you debut." And because it's like we're doing all of these moves. Man, we got body slammed on this hard ass kickboxing ring. It's basically a floor. And we just would spend some time just sparring and wrestling or grappling. And then eventually would work our way to chaining. But for a really long time, it was just a lot of conditioning and learning different things. Like drop kicks was not one of the first things we moved, but we started that pretty early because it was just like, hey, you got to learn to get your ass up in the air.
Every woman I've talked to that's gone to Japan, they always talk about they train drop kick. Their drop kicks have gotten so much better by going to Japan.
Yeah, I believe it.
So when you're green, you're new to the business, and you're watching the more experienced women in training. What are your thoughts when you see these experienced women, in training and just what they're doing?
Could I ever get to that level? Will I ever be that good? The answer is no. But it was really daunting and like awing. That's not really a word, is it?
In awe.
I was always left in awe. Yeah. Just how could they do this? Not just the combination of moves, like the height and precision, the speed. It just, I don't know. It blew my mind every time.
You're not just watching average women's wrestlers. You're seeing the best of the best in the world, You're trying to aspire to be them right from the start.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if I would have followed through if I knew that it would be so hard. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I am a little bit of a different person now.
So you're over in Japan. You taught English. You're starting wrestling training. Your mom is obviously Filipino. My mother-in-law is Filipino. My best friend is Filipino, and his mother and my wife's mother are very traditional and have traditional ideas about what Filipino should do for careers. What did your mom? In a long way of asking this question, what did your mom think about you becoming an English teacher, and then staying there to be a wrestler?
The entire way, like my mom was supportive in me getting over the heartache bit. She actually was just like, really into me going to Japan and letting my heart heal. But the moment that I started doing shit like biking by myself for 20 days and camping in shrines and alongside highways and shit, she was just like, why do you always have to do shit like that? What are you doing? You have an education. Why aren't you using it? So, I was met with much disapproval.
Did she ever come around?
She did. When I performed for ROH, she and my sister came up, and she was really happy to see me work. She had a hard time understanding what it was when I was just telling her. But when she saw it in person, she really enjoyed it. She thought it was crazy, and she was very concerned about my body because she's a physical therapist. But she thought, you know, I'm really proud of you. Please be careful.
She's still a mom, no matter what. She's still a mom.
Always.
All right. So you're progressing in training. You said there's a test you got to pass. We hear about the test that the women take. Tell me about your experience, your test. How did it go?
Well, 2 days before I took my test, I got hit by a taxi car door while biking to work. So I had, that's my third concussion in my life by that point. And it just made me so mad because I'd been preparing for this test for a really long time. So when that taxi driver hit me, I wasn't scared or sad. I was like furious. I let out this like, yell at him and really shook him. Anyways, it did change the test a little bit. Normally people have this kind of sequence that they have to do where they run the ropes, they jump on the corners, they take bumps anytime that it's being called. It's very much like that reaction training that I was telling you about earlier. Mm-hmm. So it's like that. But because of the accident, they didn't do the bumps with me. So I had like a different kind of conditioning, running around, jumping, doing all the other moves that didn't require me to slam my body on the ground. But I did have a lot to do with working with the bag, a lot of the push-ups, and a lot of the sit-ups, and, well, yeah, 100 push-ups. Wait, was it 100? Or was it 50? I can't remember. Lots of push-ups, lots of sit-ups, lots of squats, and then chain wrestling and grappling. Not grappling, sorry, sparring.
Grappling? Who gave you the test, or how does that work? I'm curious.
There were 4 people watching, as well as all of the girls that had already passed and were training. The main judges were Rossi, Fuka, Nanae, and Io.
Was there any like, nervousness? I mean, and when you're done, like, is it like a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing? How do they let you know?
So after you do all the physical stuff, you also then have to tell them why you want to become a pro wrestler. So I had to tell them in my broken ass Japanese that I wanted to become a wrestler because I wanted to be strong like them. And I just want to keep something like that. I can't remember. And, they talk about what they see in you. And to be honest, a lot of that early period of me wrestling, I could only understand 40 to 50%. So I knew they were discussing what I did, and I knew they approved me. And that was it.
What was that satisfaction like when you were accepted in?
I was so happy. I was so tired. I mean, so the other thing was, how I was living as an English teacher before. Mm-hmm. Before I found Joshi, I had quit that and was just going off of savings trying to find work. And around the same time that I found wrestling, I also found this like English YouTube thing for Japanese people. So I was doing that simultaneously, and that helped me pay for rent alone, barely any food. So when you are a wrestler, you can actually stay in the dorms and not pay rent. Mm-hmm. So I was really excited to move into the dorms and just at least start putting money away, or at least surviving, because I was really fucking broke.
Did you guys do the community chanko and stuff like that too at the dorm?
Chanko? Oh, we didn't have a rice cooker at the time, did we? I can't remember. We didn't have a lot of things because it was a new room and it was just me and Jazzy. We didn't even have a fridge, so much of our eating was conveni food, just rice balls and packs of chicken.
Jazzy loves you, by the way, just so you know. She loves you.
I love her too. She was my first wrestling friend.
All right, so how long after you passed your test do you have your first match?
Pretty quickly. So I passed, when the fuck did I pass it? I think I passed it August 8th, and then I had a match August 10th, and my 30th birthday was August 12th. So it was, you know.
So you're 30, you're wrestling against girls that are 16, 17.
Yeah. Can you say dumb? I'm dumb as fuck.
You're adventurous. I like to call that adventurous.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
So some of your early matches, I mean, looking at the names of the women you wrestled against, it's pretty amazing. Like your second match is against Takumi Iroha, who I think now is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tell me about what it's like to wrestle against somebody. I mean, she was good even back then.
Yeah. It was, you know, there is a feeling of safety in a sense. I mean, they're rough as hell and you will get messed up, but they guide you. They know that you're new. So they really want to make the experience the best as they can for the two of you as well as the audience. So they really think about what we're doing out there in the ring.
And they want you to make you look as good as they possibly can.
Yeah, because if you know, I mean, what does it matter if you destroy someone so easily? It doesn't mean anything. And they want every story to build to something.
And how did the Stardom fans take to you when you first debuted?
I think they were a little confused because I'm there howling and stuff. And I think it didn't really click that I was a wolf until I got a tail, you know, just bam, there it is. Because my first costume, I looked like a breakdancing Aladdin, you know, like I was in the 9th grade and I had jazz dance or something.
You look like you're in 9th grade too. You look so young.
My face is weird.
So how does training differ once you actually make your debut versus when you're just, you know, prior to your debut?
It was hell. Honestly, I think it was so difficult that, I mean, it wasn't just physically difficult, it was mentally and spiritually draining. I think I actually had wanted to quit right away, but I was so frustrated with myself that I thought, you know, you had basically starved for 6 months and gone to training and walked across Tokyo just to get there. You have obsessed over this idea of passing this test to be a wrestler. You can't give up yet. And, you know, my body wasn't ready for the pain that would come. And it's also very interesting because my relation to pain has changed over the years, like through wrestling. You kind of get used to this feeling always being there to the point where it's almost, I mean, it's there and it prevents you from doing things sometimes, but it just becomes a part of you and you don't really realize it's like, I don't feel that way anymore. And it took a really long time for me to get connected to my body again after quitting. Sorry, that was a long rant. Apologies.
No, that's good. No, but so when you were a kid or when you were growing up, like your pain threshold, you know, some people have high pain thresholds, some people don't.
Yeah.
Did you have a high pain threshold when you were younger? Or?
I think so. I think I did have a high pain threshold, and then
This just took it to a different limit.
Yeah, it did. And I think there was also part of the mental thing was the loneliness. You know, when Jazzy was there, I definitely had a friend. When I was interacting with the Japanese girls that were senpais, it was very old school, so you couldn't speak unless you were spoken to. And it just, I was able to connect more with the foreigners when they came, because it's like there's no rules like that. Even though they were very much ahead of me in their careers, they would still talk with me like a person.
So people like Hudson, Envy that came over, people like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hudson, Heidi, Dragonita, you know, everyone just, we were all roommates, basically.
So pretty early you tagged with Kyoko Kimura.
Mm.
Was she one of the people, the traditional old school?
You know, she was, but she was very interesting, you know, because I remember the entire Stardom roster, like, looked at her with that kind of, like, fear of the senpai, you know, because she's so badass, and she's, I think she has the same length or more career than Nanae. So she was up there, right? And there was always kind of reverence whenever she came into the room. So I was immediately intimidated that I would start tagging with her. I was scared shitless, really. But she was strict, but she took care of me, and I still think of her as like a wrestling mom.
Was little Hannah running around anywhere that you saw?
I did meet Hannah when she was like 15, I think 15, 16 maybe. Yeah, it's so weird to have seen her so young and then grow up, but she was always taller than me, so I guess it wasn't too shocking, I suppose.
You see a teenager, then you're tag teaming with later on?
Yeah. What is my life?
So you're going through the tag league with Kyoko. You're facing basically the who's who of Stardom at that time.
Oh gosh.
So when you get into a match with like one of your trainers, and this is Nanae. So when you get into a match, what's the pressure like? What's it feel like to have to like wrestle your senpai?
Well, for me, it was pretty terrifying. You know, there was a lot of pressure on performing well, hitting all the marks, and being better. You know, you don't want to disappoint them, because they are the people that you look up to, and they can be pretty brutal when they give you the feedback afterwards. So it's really like, oh, gotta get it right. But then when you hear your own music though, and you just burst out, I feel like that kind of helps you just let out that nervous energy.
When do you think you got real comfortable in the ring? How long did it take?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I always felt the anxiety before every match. I feel like I'd want to vomit every time. I think one time I did vomit in my mouth and swallow it, but I think I felt more comfortable with the crowd, maybe after a couple of months. Yeah, because before I didn't even see the crowd. I would just see in the ring. I could only see the people I was facing. And to see beyond the ropes was like, it just was dark.
So people like Hudson and Heidi come in and you have matches with them. Mm. Is it a different feeling when you're in a match with them versus with the Japanese women?
Yeah. Yeah, like, definitely with the foreigners, there would be more freestyling. And that made me so nervous. And it would be kind of playful, you know. I think so. There's different things that I was learning from the two different groups that were present, you know. I guess technique from the Japanese, and kind of like a different flow from the foreigners.
What was that flow the foreigners were teaching you?
I don't know, maybe take it a little slower and bigger movements, because I'm so small. They were just like, try to make it as big as you can, Kris, because no one can see you. You are tiny.
So when you're wrestling over there, are you watching YouTube videos of American women's wrestling or anything like that at all?
I didn't until later in my career.
Okay.
It wasn't until I was invited to go to the West that I started really looking up more stuff. I would see some things if foreign wrestlers would recommend it to me. Mm-hmm. But I think I was deeply researching Japanese style wrestling, like going into their history and stuff. And then since we had also a lot of British girls, I was looking into World of Sport. And then eventually I went and ventured into the YouTube land of American wrestling.
So when you're there, are you thinking, I'm going to be in Japan forever, this is going to be it?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I didn't think so much about the future. I didn't have that ability, so it feels really strange to think about it. There were no aspirations. I literally just had that moment.
So there was a bit of a shakeup in Stardom when the whole Act and Yoshiko situation happened. I'm not asking you to tell me, your opinions on everything, who you hate, who you love. Just tell me about the experience that day, what it was like to be a relatively new foreigner in such an intense situation.
Well, new and foreigner definitely being the key words. I didn't know what to do. All I knew was it was going to be hard hitting because it's a Japanese match, and Act had said that she had beef with Yoshiko in general, not like beef, but like they've had history. But again, my Japanese at that point was still 40 to 50%. But
were there tensions building up? I mean, before that day, before they went to the ring, did you feel anything backstage at all?
They were very cold. It felt very cold between them. And Act is always respectful to the senpais. Just there was tension, and just, it didn't feel like they were friends, though it was weird because, I think if you look back far enough, they were at one point. I don't know. I can't really comment on that because I wasn't there at that time. I only saw that they didn't have good feelings.
So after the fact, was it just chaos backstage, or what was going on?
Yeah, it was when we had finally managed to pull Act from the ring. She couldn't see out of one eye. She could barely breathe. She had a broken orbital bone that was so swollen. She kept apologizing because she just wanted to give a good match, and it was heartbreaking because her parents were in the crowd, and she just wouldn't stop apologizing. And I think we're all frantic to continue with the show. Like, how do you save an entire show after that? And also concerned about getting her to get the proper care. It's just like me and Kimura went to the hospital right away and waited till we could see her, until her, everyone could come. It felt awful. I didn't know what to do or what I could do. There's no way to help my friend, and just that helplessness feels like guilt a lot when I think about it.
So, did it question you? I mean, this is one of the ugliest sides of wrestling. I mean, did you question your career at any point after seeing something like that happen?
Absolutely. I wanted to quit right then and there, but Act asked me to wait for her. She asked me to wait so I could be there when she comes back. And I remember there was a time when Rossi was gonna break up Oedo Tai. It was when it was just me, Thunder Rosa, and Holodead. And I know none of the fans could understand me because I just went off script, took the mic, and started saying Oedo Tai's not done. And the only one who could probably understand me of the Japanese was Rossi, so at least that was made. Everyone else was wondering why I was choking up and saying shit on the mic in English. So, but I'm glad he kept it.
It's a bit unfortunate that Act is remembered more for that than her actual wrestling career.
I agree.
Tell us why people should go back and watch Act wrestle.
She's so charismatic. I mean, she puts all of her energy and her ability into what she's doing, and you can't take your eyes off of her. Even when you're watching like one of her first couple of matches, you know, like I know some fans really like technical stuff or whatever, but like she is so engaging with her style, of her costume. She puts all of the work into the details. She's a really talented performer. I don't know. She's just shiny as fuck, and she has a really powerful story that's inspiring for anyone who feels like maybe they should give up. She's, forget what it's called. There's a dandelion, I guess. Like there's this quote that she has in her movie about being a weed, but like the dandelion, because it's resilient and it'll keep growing even if you try to kill it. I think she's one of the biggest inspirations for me. I mean, I stayed for like a year or so after just so she could come back.